he talked trash to Wilt one time.
No, he didn't.
They got Wilt so upset. Come on, old man, get this jumper. Like,
Wilt, 50 years old?
45, 46, But and Wilt was like, Marques, come here, man. Give me the ball every single time. Give me the ball.
That's how Wilt's talking? That's how Wilt's talking?
Marques, give me the ball every single time. I want to show this young stuff.
Five-time All-Star Marques Johnson.
Alongside Marques Johnson.
What's up, everybody? Hey, this is the Here District, captain of this vessel. And I got my first mate, my number one son, Kris Johnson.
What up? Talk to me.
Let it rain, man. Let it rain.
I guess guess what? We're going back into the Friday.
Can't pass us all the breakfast.
Can't pass
Go fight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Here District, Marques Johnson.
You're listening to a Bucks Plus audio production on the Bucks Plus Network.
Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks, straight from a Bucks legend. This is Here District with Marques Johnson, alongside his son and 1995 NCAA champion, Kris. Here's MJ.
All right, welcome, everybody, to Here District. I'm Marques Johnson, here in the Wooden Award Room at the LA Athletic Club, joined by my son, Kris Johnson, the only father and son tandem in college basketball history to win a national championship at the same school, UCLA. There's been other players that have won championships. The Bibbies, Mike and Henry. The Mays, Scott and Sean. The Waltons, did Luke win a championship?
I don't think he did. We checked on it, and Luke did not.
Got to the championship game against Duke.
With Gil.
With Gilbert Arenas and that crew, but did not win it. So close, but no cigar. But here we are, Here District. And yes, in the background, you see a whole lot of photos. Kris, what are these photos, man? Tell us.
Some of the greatest college basketball players to ever lace them up.
Yeah.
The Wooden Award winners from over the years, the first to the last.
Yeah.
Women's and men's, right?
Yeah, when did it start?
1977.
Yes.
This guy over here, Marques Johnson, the first winner of the John R. Wooden Award.
Wow.
It was amazing hearing, first of all, it's amazing touring the facility.
Yeah.
Growing up here as a youngster, you used to bring me up here all the time.
Yep.
20, 30 years ago, so it looks totally different.
Yeah.
So state-of-the-art, so nice.
Yeah.
Such a great staff. And the room we just conducted that interview with. I mean,
Right.
it just feels like so much history in this place.
Yeah.
Everywhere you turn.
Well, it's always been one of my favorite places to work out, the LA Athletic Club, right in downtown LA, just because of all the history. And I don't know what year this place was built, but it had to be in the 20s or 30s, or maybe even before. But you just get this sense, man.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. And I'm not talking like a ghost vibe or anything negative either. It's all a
Not
positive.
like the Fister.
Not like the Fister. Not like the Fister. The Fister is haunted. I'm telling you, the Fister is haunted in Milwaukee, but that's a whole other show. But this place here, man, it's got all this great history, great tradition, the LA Athletic Club. And so the Wooden Award was started in 1975, conceived in 1975. The LA Athletic Club, Duke Llewellyn, the Hathaway family, the people that ran the LA Athletic Club. So they wanted to give an award to the top college basketball player named after Coach Wooden because of not only the great things that he had done as a coach, 10 championships in 12 years, but just the human being that he was and what he stood for in terms of greatness as a person. The pyramid of success has been a blueprint for living for so many people. So they started the award 1975. They did not give it out to the first winner, Kris, until 1977. Now, a little context, 1976, I was going to go pro. Larry Brown came, talked to me. I went down to Denver, watched the Nuggets play the New Jersey Nets or New York Nets. I think at that time they were. Julius Erving and that crew in the ABA Championship Series in 1976. I was going pro.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that deal kind of fell apart because of the merger. Carl Scheer, some other things happened because of the merger. I was contemplating whether to come back to school or go to the NBA with the Detroit Pistons. And my mother found out that they were giving away the Wooden Award, the very first Wooden Award in 1977. And she had the brilliant idea, as only mamas could have, of, hey, why don't you be the first winner? And so I set my sights on becoming the first winner of the Wooden Award. The dunk shot came back into college basketball after a 10-year hiatus. And the rest is history. I was able to be the first winner, and it's the crowning achievement. I can say that. The crowning achievement of my basketball career is being named the first winner of the Wooden Award.
So why would you say it's the crowning in chief?
Well, I had a lot of great things that happened. Won a city
Was it
championship.
Hall of Fame, the College Basketball Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, yes. No, without question. Now, look, I'm part of the LA City Hall of Fame, the Crenshaw High Hall of Fame, the Southern California Hall of Fame, the California Hall of Fame, the Wisconsin Hall of Fame, College Basketball Hall of Fame, the UCLA Hall of Fame. All of them mean a whole lot. Every Hall of Fame except that other one. I've been every hall. How can you be a Hall of Famer in 10 different Hall of Fames and not be a member of the? But that's a whole. I digress.
Unbelievable.
But the Naismith, but a 3-time finalist. I got to hold the record for being the most finalists in the history. So, beside the point. The point is that being the first winner of the Wooden Award, man, means so much to me, and it's something that I set my sights on, Kris. My senior year, UCLA, playing for Gene Bartow. And, the year didn't turn out how I would have loved it to, winning a national championship, getting to the Final Four. We got upset by
Idaho State.
You like to, Kris was
It's so unbelievable.
well, see, always tease me about that until they lost to
Princeton. But it's so unbelievable. Don't say that too loud. Why are you trying to bring that up, man?
So I had something to
Bring Princeton up.
the Princeton back door, the Princeton cut, Petey Carell, and then all that. And here's a little bit of trivia for you.
I got some trivia.
Here's some trivia for you. If you want to slow it down frame by frame on that back story,
Ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Kris had a bad ankle. Kris is the weak side defender. Kris gets a fingernail on the basketball. You can actually
slow it down. You'll see the trajectory.
you'll see the rotation of the ball.
But it goes
change. But the ball still goes in. So when they talk about horseshoes and hand grenades, man, it was close. But what were we talking about?
Wait, horseshoes and hand grenade.
Yeah.
Wait, no. I'm getting to the bottom of that. What is horseshoes and hand grenade? What does that mean?
Close only counts.
Oh,
Close only counts. And horseshoes and hand grenades.
you've always used that.
Horseshoes,
The idea with that.
horseshoes and hand grenades, man. I mean, horseshoes, the closer you get, the more points you get. Hand grenades,
The hand grenade, man, just leave her alone.
Yeah. They did the whole hurt locker
you're
kind
so
of
funny.
thing, hurt locker kind of thing going on. But horseshoes and hand grenades. But the point is that it's the highlight. Coach Wooden, first winner.
For sure.
I used to always kind of in a self-deprecating kind of way say I'm like the Jay Burwanger of
Who's that?
well, Jay Burwanger.
Who's Jay Burwanger?
I'm the Jay Burwanger of the Wooden Award.
Who is Jay?
So I mean, put it together. Who just use your comments?
I don't know. I've never heard that name.
What is a Wooden Award?
Basketball. So what is Burwanger?
Burwanger's a football player.
Okay,
college
so he was
football
the
player.
first Heisman?
First
I
Heisman.
thought Heisman was the first Heisman. I got
And they
that
named it after
wrong.
Heisman,
I
but
got
Jay
that wrong.
Burwanger. Jay
I got that
Burwanger.
wrong.
He's a Chicago somebody. I forget who he played for, but Jay But for me, playing at UCLA, and then playing for Coach Wooden. And it's funny, Bill Walton, the late great Bill Walton, used to always every time we'd appear at a Wooden Award ceremony, he'd always kind of rub it in. And when I'd mentioned that, I'm the first guy that played for Coach Wooden that won the award, he's like, well, I'd rather have played for him for 4 years than win an award named by him. But that's Bill. But for me, it's such an honor of high esteem, man. And I've got it on full display in my house, in my den, and it just means so much to me.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
You've said that Coach Wooden's pyramid of success, it felt abstract in college or something along those lines.
Yeah.
When did
Is that
Coach Wooden, you used abstract. When did Coach Wooden's lessons crystallize for you post UCLA?
Well, that's a great question, man. It's interesting, and you know this as someone approaching 50 years old.
Damn.
Wow.
Kevin Hart. Damn.
Wow. but the longer you live, the more adversities that you go through, the more challenges that show up in your life, the more you start reflecting and remembering and things that my parents told me, and what Coach was trying to pass along to us at UCLA with that pyramid of success. Now, he understood. He understood that we were like 17, 18 years old, that we had our wild oats to sow and all that good stuff, and that those lessons. So he would always say that he didn't measure how well of a job he did in terms of nurturing a player until 15 years after they graduate and see what kind of productive citizens that they were. Yeah. And he's had some major, between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Andy Hill, a guy that we both know is a friend of ours, good friend of ours. But Andy was a guy that went from UCLA, a bench player, not playing at all, to writing a book, Be Quick But Don't Hurry, with Coach Wooden. And he produced a bunch of shows on TV, The Merlin Olsen Show, Touched by an Angel, Dr. Quinn, all these shows, all these great kind of family shows on CBS. Andy Hill was the guy that shepherded those in to the network. So, but you can just go on down the list of, Fred Slaughter, great lawyer who represented Jamal Wilkes and a bunch of other guys as an attorney who did a lot of good positive things. Willie Knowles was the guy that was my mentor and agent and friend who passed away a few years back, but he's the guy that taught me so much about life and business and the ways of the business world. So that's the thing. Coach Wooden looked at his players at 17, 18, understanding that those life lessons wouldn't sink in until some adversity showed up. Then all of a sudden, the pyramid of success started to make more and more sense about, self-control, about adaptability, about all these things that you can take in life to help you kind of soldier through the challenges and the obstacles that, if you keep living, are sure to show up in your life. Yeah, so there's a story about Coach Wooden. It's right after the Bruins had beaten Memphis State in St. Louis, the game that Bill Walton went 21 for 22. Greg Lee had like 15 assists, an NCAA record. But so I'm sitting in the den of my home in Los Angeles, and my father and I just watched the game. And all of a sudden, the phone rings. And so my father answers the phone and tells me, Papa Stopper, that's what he called me. Papa Stopper, it's for you. So I'm like, okay. So I get on the phone. Hello. And it's Coach Wooden on the other line. And Coach Wooden says, Marques, did you watch the game? I'm like, yes, Coach, I watched the game. He's like, well, we'd love for you to be a part of this, Marques. You think you'd like to be a part of this next year? I'm like, yes, Coach, I'd love to be a part of that. So I don't know who came up with that as a recruiting angle, but man, it sure worked with me, because right then and there I was sold. The fact that Coach Wooden, the greatest coach in basketball history, would take the time immediately following a championship game to give me a call and ask me to be a part of the great UCLA program. It was a done deal right then.
We recently, yesterday, got the news that former Bruin, he didn't play for Coach Wooden, but he was recruited by Coach Wooden. David Greenwood passed away. Loved Greenwood. Wonderful man. Talk a little bit about Greenwood and your enduring memories of him.
Well, David Greenwood, so there's four guys: Kiki Vanderway, David Greenwood, Roy Hamilton, and Brad Holland. All UCLA Bruins. Brad Holland was on that Laker championship team. Magic Johnson's rookie year, all first rounders. David, I think, it's number 2 pick of the Bulls. Kiki, a first rounder. I think with Dallas and wound up in Denver. Roy Hamilton got picked like 12 or 13 by Detroit. But they were the last group of players that Coach Wooden actually recruited. And so Coach winds up retiring in 1975. So we all played with Gene Bartow in 1976. But they were the last group of guys that Coach recruited. So that gives you an idea of their talent level. But David Greenwood specifically, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks out of left field, man, if I can mix some metaphors. But when I found out, someone posted
Ben Bosch?
No. Eldridge Recasner. So Eldridge Recasner sent me a text and quoted Ben Bosch of the LA Times in that little blurb that he had on Twitter. And at first I thought Eldridge was talking about Deion Brown, a Crenshaw High great that went to Washington and passed away a couple of months ago. Then I read it again, and he was talking about David Greenwood had passed away. So that was a real shock. But David Greenwood, man, let me just say this. David Greenwood went to Verbum Day, played for the great George McQuarrie, played for John Sneed at Verbum Day. He was one of the greatest high school players I'd ever seen in my life. One of the greatest college players. He came in, man, with this fro, Kris, so big, 6'9", 6'10", with this big fro that would, like, he had a hard time, keeping his head up. That fro was so big. His head be bobbing like that because that fro was so big. He and Roy Hamilton both. 6'9", 6'10", way before his time. He had handles. He's the first guy I saw at his size, Kris, come down full speed, kind of a KD before KD. Go through his legs right to left, pull up from 20 feet, swish.
So let me ask you this. Well, how does he compare to Mickey Johnson as far as the handles and the floor game at being 6'2"?
Well, I mean, Mickey,
that's my frame of reference for that era, yeah. Mickey Johnson, because he was serious.
Yeah, well, Mickey probably had a better career, but Mickey went to Aurora. He went to Aurora College in Illinois. Had a better NBA career.
Yeah.
But in terms of coming out of high school collegiately, Greenwood, I thought, in my mind, was going to be one of the, and I say this without any hyperbole, I thought David Greenwood would be one of the greatest forwards in NBA history. He's 6'9", 6'10", he's long, he's jumping out the gym, he's dunking on people, Kris, he's talking trash. David would just get it. That's it. He talked trash to Wilt one time.
No, he didn't.
They got Wilt so upset. I told you about that 2-on-2 game that Wilt told me to pass the ball to him every time down on a kind of a casual 2-on-2 game, the men's gym, after we got through with the run. And Wilt dunked on David about 6 or 7 times in a row. And Wilt was about
50 years old?
45, 46, But David precipitated that with the trash. Hey, well, come on, old man, get this jumper. Let's see your face, Wilt. And Wilt was like, Marques, come here, man. Give me the ball every single time. Give me the ball.
That's how Wilt's talking? That's how Wilt's
Marques, give me the ball every single time. I want to show this young stuff. And he wound up dunking on him a few times. But anyway, David, man, was such a force of nature on the collegiate scene at UCLA. Had a solid freshman year, but it really came into his own his sophomore year. My senior year, we played together. And his game was ahead of his time. That's all like Mickey Johnson. It was a fluid 6. He was KD before KD. 6'9", fluid, jump shooting. Another quick story. My senior year, so David and I always went at it. And David, he was hard for me to score him because he's 6'9", just as quick. He was long. I blow by him on the baseline in practice. I get underneath the hoop and I corkscrew for a dunk. He goes up to challenge. I wind up dunking, but he hit me hard enough to knock me off balance. I fall back and I twist my knee. This is my senior year, like around late November, early December. I'm out about 2 weeks. I don't know if I'm going to play again that year. My knee is really, really messed up at that point. And David was really apologetic about it. I'm sorry, Cap. I'm so sorry. But the point is that I wound up playing that year and having a great year and bouncing back and working hard to get back. But man, David, I was shocked when he got to Chicago that they used him more as a prototypical big man. Don't let him shoot jumpers, keep him in the post, play defense, rebound, and let some of these other guys flourish offensively. But David, to me, man, if he'd have been in today's game, he'd average 25 a game and be one of the greats that you talk about.
Who was his coach? Kevin Lockery or something?
Oh, man, either Jerry Sloan.
Oh, Jerry Sloan was on there?
Yeah, someone like that back in those days. So it was one of those hard-ass kind of old school dudes that you're a big man, you rebound.
Real quick, I wanted to get your take on my top 10 forwards in UCLA history. I'll compile the lists for my, those.
You've been busy, haven't you?
So we got Sidney Wicks, number 1. Okay. Marques Johnson, number 2.
Why Sidney number 1?
Well, Sidney was nice. Artis Gilmore, 6 blocks in the championship game. I've never seen MJ do that, so I have to lean towards Sid because he's 6'9". Doing that against Artis, literally gloving in the title game.
Well, and Sid's story with that is that Sidney, Coach Wooden wanted Sidney to front Artis Gilmore. So Sidney fronted him. Sidney fronted him in the first half. And Artis was killing us.
Please.
CLA.
Please.
Sidney and Curtis Rowe. Then after halftime, Sidney's like, and Sidney was just kind of dude, Coach, I'm playing behind him. Well, no, Sidney, I want you to front. No, Coach, I'm playing behind him. Let me play behind him. And Sidney blocked like 2 or 3 of his shots.
I mean, goaltending and block, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. Number 2, it's you, right? 75 NCAA champion, 21.
You can say Keith Wilkes.
I'm going you. So I'm going you.
Yeah, Keith.
Number 3.
Second one hand.
Number 3, I'm going Ed O'Bannon, right? And this is why. Recency bias, but I'm going Ed. Number 4, Jamal Wilkes. Number 5, I got to give some love to Simi Valley's own Don McClain.
Yeah.
The all-time leading scorer in the pack to 2,600 plus points.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Donnie Mack doesn't get enough love. Number 6, Curtis Rowe, baby.
Oh,
got to.
That's interesting.
Got to. Number 6. Number 7, David Greenwood, 18 a game, 11, 15.3 win shares. Number 8, your roommate. Your roommate.
Richard Washington.
Washington, number 8. Most outstanding player in the 1976, 1975
Yeah. 28 points in the semi against 28 against Kentucky in the final.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
He's definitely top 10. Yeah. Kiki Vandeweghe makes it in as 9 for me. This is my list.
Okay.
Again, and it may differ from yours. And coming in at number 10, Mr. Soulville Foundation, Lily Knowles.
I like that.
Kid.
Yeah. No.
Honorable mentions, Tracy Murray, Charles O'Bannon, Jaime Jaquez, and Dave Myers.
Yeah. No.
What do you think about that list, MJ?
I like the list.
Give me your honest assessment. You don't have to, try to agree with it.
Well, no, I mean, and again, this is personal preference. Dave Myers, because of the the integral role that he played in our championship season in '75. He was kind of our heart and soul, our leader as a senior of that basketball team. I mean, we had a game up in Oregon, Kris. It was 103 to 101. He had 39.
Against the
Ducks, the Kamikaze Kids up at Oregon. 103 to 101, no overtime. 40-minute college game, no 3 points, no 3-point shot. You know, Greg Ballard and Stu Jackson and Ernie Kidd. And these are Oregon, not Oregon State. These are the Ducks. Dick Harder was the coach. But Dave Myers, I try and find a way to fit him in somewhere on that list. But other than that, that's a pretty solid
So
list.
The amazing part about the 70s and all of the talent that Coach Wooden, back to Coach Wooden, as a recruiter, right? 6 or 7 top 5 NBA draft picks in the 70s alone.
Right.
That's incredible. Your team, when you talk about you, Richard, and Dave, you're talking about two number 2 picks and a number 3 pick on the same squad. I mean, how often do we see that in basketball? My question for you, what was it like as a player to have to play with guys that are just as talented as you, better than you? We talked a little bit about it upstairs, but like you got 2 other top 3 picks that you're competing against every day. What did that do for you, MJ?
Well, you know, iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel. And I've shared this story with you and others countless times. But my first week of practice was the hardest week of basketball I ever had in my life at UCLA, guarded by Keith Wilkes at that time, later Jamal Wilkes. But Keith had it low. And man, it just I get mad thinking about it. Wouldn't let me touch the basketball, Kris. And if I got by him, Bill Walton was on the back line, blocking everything out of bounds and talking trash to me. This is UCLA. Get that Crenshaw crap out of here. This is not high school, buddy. What are you
talk back to Bill?
No,
or what'd you say?
No.
So nobody would challenge Bill.
I was Meek. Instead of Meek Mill, I was Meek Marques. I was Meek Marques. Yes, but you know what I did? I wound up calling my mother.
Oh, come on, Dad.
I can't play it.
We can play this off. It's okay to play that off.
I can't play it. UCLA, they're too good. My father's like, what's going on? I was like, Bill and Keith Wilkes, they're blocking everything. I can't get a shot off. He's like, they're the 2 best defensive players in the country. You're fine. And so yeah, but I started. Now, I blocked Bill's shot. I blocked Bill's jumper in a 3-on-2 drill. That's goaltending. I was like, get that weak San Diego bull crap out of here. This is college, you know. So I was able to go back at him like later in the season. But it wasn't until I got my Bruin legs under me that I was able to feel like I belonged on this level. There was such an elite level of basketball with Coach Wooden and Bill. I mean, just sitting around looking around the locker room would just be so imposing and man, intimidating as a young player. So it was a whole different world for you back then.
Man, staying on that, you've played in these elite settings. You played for some seriously elite coaches. I like to segue to Coach Nelson, Don Nelson.
Yeah.
Winning the Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award. Coach Carlisle gave it to him at the finals. Nellie, obviously the second in all-time wins, most wins in Bucks history. Won 250-plus games for 3 franchises, right? I mean, that's incredible. Now, let me ask you this. Were there any similarities between Don Nelson and Coach Wooden from a philosophy standpoint?
The biggest similarity between Don Nelson and... So here's Nellie. My rookie year... Nellie would approach you as an empty vessel, like you didn't know anything about the professional game. And as a collegiate player, you really didn't know a lot of the tricks and the nuances that were involved in being a successful pro. And so he would kind of approach you as an empty vessel and fill you up with all this great old Boston Celtic knowledge. He'd always tell you, not how fast you run, is when you would run in transition. Hell, I was the slowest white guy out there on the floor, but I got a lot of laughs because I knew when to anticipate a rebound defensively and get that edge in transition. Little things like that Nellie had a really good insight on. And so Coach was the same way. Coach would have the approach that he had to really teach the game to you. So both were consummate teachers in terms of passing along the knowledge. Nellie, of course, played in that whole Red Auerbach system. I think he was coached by Red. He was coached by Red in the late 60s when he first got to Boston. And then Bill Russell was his next coach. Tommy Heinsohn was his coach. So he played for some great coaches. Coach Wooden had some great coaches, back in his day playing for Purdue when he was a 3-time All-American at Purdue. So it's a lot of similarities in that sense, those old-fashioned kind of Midwestern values, even though coaches were a little bit more pure and little bit more purity to Coach Wooden's values than Don Nelson's. Nellie liked to have a good time, liked to have a lot of fun. But both guys were guys who taught me a whole lot about the game of basketball, and I really have a lot of respect for them. Had a chance to spend time with Nellie in Maui, and this is where he's moved to Maui with his.
He's got a weed farmer
with his wife, with his daughter. He owns all kind of businesses. He owns half of Maui over there, real estate wise,
literally,
but also grows Nellie's kush.
He got coffee, he got kush,
all that.
He got the agriculture,
all that.
Nellie doing everything.
So he's over there chilling, Kris at his house, overlooking the ocean, and Nellie's like picks up a little pipe. Yeah, MJ, you mind if I smoke a bowl? I was like, hey, do you think? And then I say, now isn't this something? Here we are, 30, 40 years later.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. You're getting high, and I'm sober. I mean, who would have thought it like 30 years ago? But we played golf. He plays golf barefooted. He plays speed golf. Him and his buddy over there. They play 18 holes in about 2 hours. They just go. MJ, if you can't keep up, we're gonna have to leave you behind. And so he was still doing that at 80 years old, 85 years old now. And so it's just a lot of great memories playing for Don Nelson and some of the things that he meant. And Coach Wooden, the same thing. I mean, just in terms of the basketball knowledge that he instilled in me that I think helped me get to that next level. And Don Nelson helped me with that also.
I always found it unique that one of the fascinating things about Coach Wooden was, his propensity to play those smaller, versatile, athletic lineups early on. And Nellie kind of had the small ball thing.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily, one didn't necessarily, but it's unique for you.
Right. Well, the thing is that they both placed a high value
interchangeability
on quickness. Quickness was the key. Those Celtic teams, you think back on John Havlicek and Sam Jones, Casey Jones, and Don Chaney and some of these guys that Nellie played with during his time.
Right behind.
Yeah. No, that's Kevin Stakeham well, that is Hondo.
That's Hondo.
Kevin Stakeham is playing defense. I'm getting ready to take Kevin Stakeham to the hole, take his ass to the hole. I'm getting ready to break him off a little bit, but that's Hondo. That's an old Hondo. That's
craziest thing.
That's on Hondo like 36.
Can I tell you the craziest compliment I ever got? Speaking of Hondo, I was at minicamp with the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
When they had Lenny Wilkins was the head coach. So I'm there with Jeff Shepard and Rashawn McLeod, all their first rounders, Shammond Williams. I'm in best shape of my life, right? I'm about 6'5", I'm about 210, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just running the floor, going crazy. Lenny's there watching. I'm knocking down jumpers. Lenny comes to me, pulls me to the side. He's literally like, man, you run the floor like a guy I used to play with, John Havlicek. I was like, what? Then I had to call and find out what he meant.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand. And then I did a little research. I was like, man, that was the craziest thing someone's ever told me on a basketball court.
And Hondo there was always a reputation that he was like one of the best conditioned athletes of all time.
That's what Lenny said to me, man.
Yeah.
Lenny Wilkins. He was like, man, you run the floor like Hondo.
Yeah. No, but again, the quickness aspect, the versatility, the willingness to try, to fit your philosophy as a coach into the personnel that you have at your disposal.
Now, coaches don't always do that.
Instead of vice versa.
So they usually, you got to fit in.
We got a system, son. You got to fit into our system. No. If Bill Walton is a great high post passer, you play him at the high post. They play him down low if he's got a mismatch and can overpower smaller defenders. The Sidney Wicks and then Steve Patterson and Curtis Rowe, that lineup in the early 70s. They won a couple of championships with that lineup. Steve Patterson was the high post guy because he could shoot that 15-foot jumper and knock it down. Curtis Rowe would work down on the duck move, weak side block because he was so good at overpowering smaller defenders in the key. So, just that ability to adapt. Adaptability is key. Well, that's one of Coach Wooden's precepts in the pyramid. Adaptability, ambition, all that good stuff is something that they both preach. And Coach, the pyramid, speaking of the pyramid, Coach always talked about competitive greatness. Be at your best when your best is needed. And that's something that Don Nelson learned as a Boston Celtic, passed on to us when he got to Milwaukee. We were kind of the Celtics light, if you would, Celtics 2.0 by the time he got to us in 76, 77. His first year, 77, 78, my first year, his first year, 76, 77, he wanted to pattern everything we did after the Boston Celtics, even had the old Celtic assistant coach, John Killalay, as our assistant coach. So everything we did was kind of what Boston did. And so it was just a great learning experience.
But you could never beat Boston.
Yeah.
Except that 1 year.
We swept them. That 1 year.
Big year.
But look, but think of their front line. McHale, Parrish, Bird, then they go
Yeah, but you guys had a decent front line.
Yeah, we had, but
what was the difference?
Bob Lanier, 32 with bad knees.
And old Bob.
If Bob would have been 2 years younger, I always said this, we would have had a much better chance of winning a championship, at least getting to the final
and
round.
who was messing with McHale back then? For your
Well, I mean, he was a tough, but he wasn't the Kevin McHale that you think of in the mid to late 80s.
What was he? What was
coming off the bench? I mean, he may have been coming off the
energy,
bench.
big shoulder,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
foot,
yeah,
good
yeah. But
feet
great,
finish.
still the same footwork, the great length, the great ability to control the game from the inside out, unstoppable in the post. But it was a pecking order back then. Cedric Maxwell was cornbread Maxwell.
He was.
Finals MVP in the early 80s against Houston. He was the guy, that they'd run the ball through in the low post. So he and Larry Bird complemented each other, even though they were similar size. But Kevin McHale, once he started to come into his own, he became an unstoppable force. But those Celtic teams, man, come on. They were some of the greatest teams of all times.
Did you see where this new All-Star format is gaining traction? The international versus USA. Giannis actually was the first one to really tweet about it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, this is how the format should be. Then Adam Silver goes on, I can't remember what show he was on, but he kind of confirmed that. Sort of like the AHL's Four Nations format, if you will. What do you think about that format?
Well, look, man, I first, with all due respect to Giannis, I first brought this up to Commissioner David Stern. We're looking through the archives now for this interview for Fox Sports. But I interviewed David Stern in New York, and I brought up the suggestion that why don't you have the international players, which was Dirk Nowitzki, I believe at that time. There was some really great international guys.
Sure.
And Commissioner Stern's point to me was that there's so many that there's so many that they kind of bleed into each other, and so we don't really want to delineate international versus U.S. because we want it to be all one commonality in terms of basketball greatness. And so we'll look at other ways. But I like this. I like this aspect of it because anytime you've got that kind of situation in the Olympics, whether it's the Canadian team with Shea and all these great Canadian players or some of these European teams that they put together, the Spanish teams or the French. France got to the finals, right? The Olympic finals this year. Tough out to beat them for the gold. So now I think it's the right time for that. And I'm not so sure if the United States players would have a chance to be that successful against a team of Jokic and Giannis and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, but you ain't going to be able to name how many guys internationally can you really name that are iconic superstars other than the tops, right? So I think it's six. It's six, right? So you got Giannis, Jokic. You got Wemby.
Yeah. That's enough. That's
but you need five to play.
Yeah, well, you got Shea, but you got Shea, but you got the Nimhars.
So you're telling me you think that an international squad can beat a team of homegrown USA guys? Like
who's a homegrown guy?
Everybody else except them guys you named?
Yeah, but like who?
Let's go every team. Let's just go with Steph, KD. Let's just say two guys right now that turned it out the last Olympics. They're older.
Like 40 years old. They'll be 40 years old. I'm talking about what young established and homegrown players can you think of that compete with Giannis and Jokic and with the last 4, 5, 6 MVPs have been Joel Embiid. Who's he identified with now? I know he's been hurt on and off.
Yeah,
is he international? Is he US?
You make some good points.
So
you make some good points. But we got there's you're talking about like how many players in the NBA? There's 300 some players to pick.
Yeah.
Versus 10 that you're picking of the top internationals.
Yeah.
So if you get, your JTs and some of these other guys, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think the game is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to add an element to the All-Star game. I'm kind of tired of this all these gimmicks. I'm tired of the gimmicks.
Yeah. What did they do this past?
The points, I don't even remember. It was so bad that I don't even remember. We were there, so I was there with Joe.
Yeah.
We were there. We went to All-Star Saturday night. The dunk contest, it was, it's still live, it's still interject, but you just wish, segue to that, you just wish some of the stars with name brand recognition would take place in that again on All-Star.
Take place and play hard.
Nothing against Mac McClung and all these other guys on the dunk contest, nothing against them guys, but, I want to see some real dogs. But then on the game aspect, I think, people hate it, but you got to put some money on it.
Well, put some money up.
You put some
$1 million each player. Winner take all.
Since we moving to overseas formats, right? You got to put money on the All-Star game and have bonuses involved. I played overseas. We had bonuses involved in every single competition that we did.
Right.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, and guys come alive when there's something at stake and there's something to play for.
I mean, look at the in-season tournament.
Yeah.
When they you get the 500, 600,000 or whatever for winning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Guys, it's not chump change.
Yeah, and I just like the fact that it was Giannis who gets credit for, bringing that to Adam Silver. And I just like Giannis's, his growth as a player in terms of the way he views the game, the way he tries to grow the game. I think he was in Brazil now or recently doing some things.
Giannis is in Brazil watching volleyball. Okay?
That's
So he's front row with his bros watching volleyball.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. A lot has come out about Giannis the last couple of days. What is your take on just all the scuttlebutt, first and foremost?
Giannis has been really good at using his leverage. And so he's the last two big trades that the Bucks have made have been in response to Giannis exercising the incredible amount of leverage that he has. And so he talked about bringing in better players. We bring in Drew Holiday, traded Eric Bledsoe, championship. Then he talks about how, he wants to win more than one. We bring in Dame Lillard, get Drew out of here, And so Giannis's use of his leverage has been masterful. So I've always looked at it from that perspective, that this was a leverage play to get management as hamstrung as they may be in terms of the second apron and all the things that we talk about. I think it went under the second apron with the Chris Middleton trade with Kyle Korver. So we're under that. But the point is that John Horst and Milton Newton and all those guys, look, they want to win a championship as badly as the players do. No question. But this puts even more pressure on them to get creative, to do some creative stuff, to bring in a Gary Trent type free agent, for a minimal salary and get masterful production from. So Giannis is so embedded in the Milwaukee community. He's got his businesses there. His family is there. He's talked about all his kids have been born there. He loves the slower pace to raise his family. He's as loyal as they come based on the fact that the Bucks, we talked about a David Greenwood, pick number 2 and never reaching that superstar status. Giannis picked, 16 or 17, and nobody really gave him a chance to be this transformational type player that he's become. So that gives you an idea of his work ethic. So I'm not surprised at all. I fully expect him to come back in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform. As Don Nelson talked about with the Luka Doncic trade, you don't trade that once in a lifetime type transformative player. You try and make him finish his career with you and then get his name up in the rafters.
Well, for me, the idea of actually trading Giannis was just something that I just didn't think anybody in the NBA had the assets to really get off. Yeah. Especially when you go through the history of some of the most recent trades. You look at the Miles Bridges trade, the Paul George trade, and you're looking at 5 first-round picks. You're looking at, all type of assets. Some more Bucks news. I know that Kyle Kuzma is in the lab right now, early on in the summer, locked in with his crew, Clint Parks.
Clint's got
a whole team of guys. They're out here in LA working out.
Good.
So Kuz is actually in the lab. Last summer, I didn't see Kuz in the lab this early. I didn't see Kuz in the lab at all.
Yeah.
Now I see Kuz in the lab, so I'm excited about that.
A little birdie informed me that Giannis has taken or will take the younger guys, Ryan Rollins and AJ Green, bring them over to Greece, work them out for a week or two, put them up, have a good time, do all that good camaraderie, bond building stuff that you do as young people. So when I hear a guy thinking like that, Giannis has donated a bunch of money to women's shelters in Milwaukee. Yep. He's really activating himself in that Milwaukee community. So I just don't see those types of actions of being the actions of a guy that's thinking about uprooting and going to a whole other city.
And I think most of all, Giannis's recent Twitter activity, Bucks-centric fan accounts, has really just shown us what time it really is. He's been amazing to the Bucks fan community online. Replying, his mom is even liking stuff from people. Okay. So, he's all in.
Well, he's got his Bucks jersey, the big statue in Brazil. What is that statue?
Yeah, the Jesus.
The big statue. He's right there. With a Bucks uniform. Why have a Bucks uniform? Why have any uniform at all?
Just have a generic Nike.
Or no, you don't. Just be there. But he's got that Bucks uniform to make a statement. So I think it bodes well for Milwaukee and the fan base and everybody that loves everything about Giannis. That he'll suit up and show up on opening night next year. So that's the hope.
Absolutely.
All right. Well. Again, we're down here at the LA Athletic Club. We're in the Wooden Award Room. You see all the photos behind Kris of the ladies winner, some of my favorite players. Caitlin Clark, you got Juju. I got the Wooden Award behind me, and some of the all-time greats, and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and Ralph Sampson and Kevin Durant and some of the current winners.
Jay Redick is in the building.
You talk about a basketball environment. Does it
incredible.
Does it get any better than this?
It does not.
Man,
I'm chills. That's why I'm so hyped this episode. I'm like, man, we have to build it.
it's a lot of fun. All right. Here in District, old school, Marques Johnson, son Kris Johnson. We'll see you next time. Peace.
This has been a Bucks Plus audio production.